Number 13, the monster study. This was an experiment on 22 children, including 10 orphans in Davenport, Iowa in 1939. And it was the brainchild of Wendell Johnson, who was himself a stutterer. And he was at the University of Iowa. And it was an experiment where a grad student, Mary Tudor, who was under Johnson, was tasked with giving half of the children positive speech therapy and half of these young kids negative speech therapy. So those in the former group, the ones getting negative speech therapy, were praised for their speech fluency, while those in the latter group, sorry, let me start that again. I think I said that wrong. Those in the former group, so the ones who were given positive speech therapy, were praised for their speech fluency, while those in the latter, meaning the ones who were getting negative speech therapy, were ridiculed and told they were stutterers. And what's disturbing is that many of these orphan children in the negative group suffered psychologically and developed, even though they weren't stutterers at first, they developed permanent speech problems. So as I say, they were once normal speaking children, but these doctors and these professors screwed with their minds so much that in the end they developed lifelong permanent speech problems. And again, going back to the Nazis, you know, this experiment, which was cynically described as the monster study by Johnson's peers who didn't agree with it at the University of Iowa, it coincided with news of Nazi experiments on Jewish and other children early in World War II. And so because of the sensitivity of the timing there, it was kept hidden from the public at large. So there's your conspiracy. And a New York Times article in 2003 by columnist Gretchen Reynolds says Johnson's findings about the nature of stuttering, once it has begun, remains accepted wisdom to this day. So what's really, I'll cut through this and just say that the University of Iowa eventually apologized for the monster study, but what was fascinating is that a number of the people, including the original people involved in it, also said that it was highly influential and useful in their speech pathology department and in their further research. And that sort of shows, once again, degrees of sociopathy within scientists, within just messy stuff, because why would you do all that when you're seriously damaging children? And I think that fits into the ends justifies the means consciousness. If you believe you're heading towards a great end, so in this case, you believe, well, the research here will one day cure people worldwide of these speech disorders, then you're happy to sacrifice some children's so as I was saying, if you have the ends justifies the means mentality, then you are completely happy to commit some unethical or immoral or criminal act in some cases within a scientific experiment or a military exercise or whatever. You tend to view people as pawns. For example, an example would be you sacrifice the quality of 22 children's lives within this monster study in order for, you know, thousands or millions of lives to be improved down the line. You don't think about the individuals there. You don't think about those 22 so much. You try and focus on the bigger picture, and that's the ends justifies the means mentality, which is behind many an evil scientific experiment, actually. And what's interesting also is Mary Tudor, who I mentioned before, who was under Johnson at the University of Iowa, did actually, apparently before her death, she expressed deep regret. And she claimed that Johnson should have done more to reverse the negative effects on the orphan children's speech. So just Yeah, crazy stuff.